Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be creating some fun slimline cards using some of my favorite distress oxide ink colors for creating cloud backgrounds, as well as showcasing the October 2021 Colorado Craft Company Anita Jeram images. So what is awesome is these images are actually like oversized, as Colorado Craft Company does the Big and Bold series, and then they have a lot of Anita Jeram images, and they've kind of supersized the Anita Jeram images this month, and I am here for it. I love these. These are so much fun. For my first background, I die cut a slimline rectangle using a Simon Says Stamp slimline nested rectangle die. I'm using the largest die from this collection, and I'm applying one of my favorite combinations for a starry sky. And I know it looks absolutely horrible, but stick with me because it creates a gorgeous background. So we are going to be using the brand new Villainous Potion Distress color from Tim Holtz, as well as Prize Ribbon and Salvage Patina, which are both fairly new colors as well, having been released within the last several months. This combination is so beautiful together. I am using the oxide inks because I think they work really well for that oxidized type of background, as well as the blend is gorgeous. I went in with purple first, and then I kind of tried to smooth out the Villainous Potion purple with the Prize Ribbon, and now I'm applying Salvaged Patina. I'm using a pretty heavy hand, and I'm making sure to work each color back into the previous color for that seamless transition. And I say seamless, you guys can definitely see from this background, it's not exactly seamless. It's got some kind of dark areas, and it's not super pretty, I guess I would say, but it actually creates an amazing, amazing background. So from here, I'm going to spritz the background with water from a distress sprayer so that it has some nice oxidation to it. We're gonna blot that dry, maybe let it dry for a minute or so. I probably didn't give it enough time to completely dry, but I did go ahead and let it air dry for just a second. And then I'm actually going to take some white pigment ink, and I'm using the Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink and a Waffle Flower Slimline Cloud Stencil to create a cloudy background. So it's looking pretty good actually with the gorgeous ink blending, oxidation, and now I'm taking the Unicorn White with my stencil. Now I really should have grabbed my stencil mat, and in fact I'm going to go ahead and do that because it helps grip the paper and the stencil so it doesn't move around. So you saw it really moving around on the glass surface. This is going to work so much better. What I love about this Waffle Flower stencil is that it's not perfect clouds kind of straight across, if you will, but it's kind of got those dips and valleys. And we're simply going to take our white pigment ink and work our way all the way towards the top of this panel. Now, my best tip for using the white pigment ink over a distress ink background. So distress inks are water reactive, meaning if you take that white ink from your white ink pad and move it over to this dark ink surface and then go back to your ink pad to reload your brush, you could contaminate your white ink pad. That's why I pressed the white pigment ink on my glass surface there in order to grab the ink from there and not ruin my ink pad. If I use all this ink up, I can always press another bit of ink onto my glass work surface and pick it up from there, which is what I'm going to do right now. And that way I don't ruin my white ink pad. So if you want to ink over a dark background with white pigment ink, I highly, highly recommend doing it this way. Now look how gorgeous the background is now. This would even work for a gorgeous galaxy background. I love these colors for a galaxy. Excuse me. And they just work really beautifully. And over that background with the clouds, it just works. I'm going to set that background aside. I've die cut another slimline rectangle, and this time I'm going to do a more traditional ink blend where I'm going to come down from the top with salvage patina. We're going to come up from the bottom with prize ribbon. I'm actually going to flip it around for the actual finished card, but you kind of catch my drift. I'm working those two colors together. This background will not feature any villainous potion, so no purple for this one. Instead, this background is going to have a little black soot worked in because I really like, the first card definitely has that nighttime feel to it. This one's going to have an even darker nighttime feel. Maybe even would work for Halloween or things like that, but it's definitely not spooky, creepy. It just has a little bit of a darker feel to it since we're going to work in that black soot. Once I have these two colors blended together, then I will take black soot and I'm going to work it around all of the edges of the panel. So not necessarily blending into or like creating the ombre effect with it, I guess I should say, but we're going to start around the edges of the panel and gradually work our way in. I don't want it to be black. I just want it to have a little bit of a darker, moodier type of feel. But first I want to make sure that I have a beautiful blend between salvage patina and prize ribbon, which is one of my favorite color combinations for a holiday themed background as well. You may have noticed me use this a lot in maybe some holiday themed projects. So with the black soot, I'm simply going to start here kind of in the prize ribbon section, and I'm going to work it up work it into those top two corners and just kind of gradually work my way down. Not reloading the brush necessarily, but going over the prize ribbon section to deepen and darken it. Then we're going to ink it up a little bit more with some black soot, and we're going to gradually work that into the salvaged patina. Now, just like before, where I took the Waffle Flower cloud mat, or stencil, pardon me, we're going to create a very similar background over this ink blending, which softens the effect, in my opinion, really nicely. And we're going to do that with white pigment ink. So the first two cards feature distress oxides with a white pigment ink over the top. Our third background is going to be more of my, what I'm going to kind of say, quote unquote, daytime cloud background, and we aren't going to be using a pigment ink with that. Now, I did spritz this with water from a distress sprayer before inking with the clouds, just like before. So it has some gorgeous distressing or oxidation marks in it. And then we're simply going to work this stencil into the background. You may notice I had to grab a blending brush that didn't have anything on it. I actually cleaned my brush from the first panel. So that's something to keep in mind, because your brush is going to be picking up some of that color from the background as you're applying the white pigment ink. I really, I thought I was done, actually, to be quite honest, making cards that day. And so I went ahead and went and washed my brush, and it was wet. And I wanted to go ahead and create this background so it had plenty of time to dry before I came back the next day to stamp and emboss on top of it. And so I just grabbed a brush that I hadn't used or didn't have any ink on it, and I'll have to wash this one as well. You can really see it's picking up some of that blue in there. Look how pretty that is with the clouds. I just love this technique. For my final background, we're actually just going to create kind of an ombre effect of clouds. So taking our Distress Oxide inks and our cloud stencil, we are just going to build clouds all the way down, and the white you see on the background is actually going to be the white from the card base. We're not going to be taking white ink and creating that. And I am going to do about, I think I did about 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe cloud layers with salvage patina. Then we're going to do about 3 with prize ribbon. That's going to be in the middle section. And then I'm going to do, I think maybe about 4 with villainous potion down at the bottom. So it goes from the beautiful mermaidy kind of aqua to blue to purple. And this is pretty in any color combination. You can do rainbow here. I kind of wanted to stick with the blue and purple theme for my cards today, but I love creating cloud backgrounds in lots of different color combinations. This is just one of many. And this stencil is just so much fun. I really love it. And I totally should have got my waffle flower mat out. But again, I thought I was, after this card, I thought I was done. And I actually went and washed it. And it was hanging in my bathroom to dry. And I should have grabbed the mini one out of my drawer, but I didn't. So just a little note for everyone who is excited about getting the waffle flower stencil mat, because I have used it so much in so many of my videos. Highly, highly recommend it. I really don't know how I crafted without it. I kind of got frustrated at this point. I went and cleaned it and got it out of the bathroom and dried it off because I just literally could not stencil. I'm having such a hard time stenciling without it anymore. I mean, I used to tape my backgrounds to my surface and all of that, and I just absolutely love this stencil mat. In fact, mine is getting a little bit stained, but it works so good. I love it. Okay, on to Villainous Potion. I did tap off a bit of the ink on my glass mat. And then I'm just working that right into my project. And I didn't bother to clean my stencil from Prize Ribbon to Villainous Potion because I don't mind a little of that blue kind of coming off into the purple. So pretty. Don't forget to take your ink blending and kind of go along that bottom edge there so that it's not so super bright white. And then I even kind of went back up here at the top with Salvage Patina and added a little bit more. Love it. So pretty. Now let's spritz this with water from a distress sprayer as well, so that has a little oxidation to it. We're going to blot it dry. And then I will tell you all of these backgrounds sat and air dried overnight. Excuse me again. I've had a little cold. I'm so sorry. And truth be told, I actually didn't get back to these for 2 days. I often like to let my oxidized backgrounds or distress oxide ink backgrounds sit overnight if I'm going to stamp and emboss on them, which I knew I wanted to. I'd kind of already pre-planned that. But I had some other things going on, and so I didn't get back to these for 2 days, which just gave them even more time to air dry. Then I'm going to stamp this darling mouse image. So there's 4 new stamp sets. 3 of them feature kind of bigger mice. This is the Twinkle Little Star set, which has this great mouse holding onto this large star. Sentiments from this stamp set are things like twinkle, twinkle, little star, do you know how loved you are? And what a precious girl you are, what a precious boy you are, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Now, if you guys wanted to make maybe framed art for a baby's room, for a baby shower, I could totally see making something cute with any of these images and using phrases from this set to do maybe a framed piece that you set on the mom-to-be's table or whatever the case may be, or maybe you're making your own art for your own baby's room. I just think there's a lot of really cute, clever home decor things you could do here with this set and these sentiments since they are nice and oversized. I created oversized cards with them since they were such a big, bold size. In the set, so the big sets feature, I think 2 of them feature just like 1 mouse and then stars and sentiments. One actually has 2 mice. And then some sentiments and stars. And then the smaller set, like the little mini size stamp set, has just a little image. And I'm going to use that one as well. So I think there's only about 2 mice I didn't use, but I mixed and matched from across all 4 sets. So all 4 have coordinating dies. So amazing. You guys already know, if you've seen any of my Colorado Craft Company videos, that I absolutely love their die sets because they just knock it out of the park with their die sets. Their dies cut close to the image. They cut out little nooks and crannies, which you're going to see when we get to that. I love it. I'm also featuring some no line coloring with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I've been on a Copic kick lately, so it was super fun to break out my Zigs again. I know I get requests for this all of the time. And so I have my colors listed across the screen. I did change the font color for this because I know at times it's really hard to read. I do want to just reiterate, because I've had some questions come up lately asking me to tell the colors. If at all it's hard to see, or it goes by too fast on the screen, or whatever the case may be, there's always a link to the blog post that coordinates with the video underneath the video here on YouTube. You can click that at any time and go to the blog post, and I list out the colors. Whether I'm using Copics, Zigs like I'm doing here today, Tombow, dual brush markers, when I use those, I list those out. If I am using my Prismacolors or any type of colored pencil, I will list that as well. So if you ever want to know exactly which colors I've used and you want more of a written type of instruction, you can find that there. I used pretty basic colors today. The mouse or mice, because it's going to be the same colors throughout, medium brown, beige, and medium beige with a little pale pink for feet or insides of ears or things like that. And then over the pale pink, I'm going to use beige and medium beige, so it's not so pink, but a little bit more of a dirty pink color. And then for the stars, that's going to be mustard and pale yellow. So, so much fun. If you have been waiting for my favorite Zig Clean Color Real Brush Marker color combos, that PDF is coming next week. Just a little hint to everyone who has been asking for that. I am so sorry for the delay. I've actually been sick for a few days, and my son was sick the week before, and just all of the things. So I'm a little bit delayed getting that out there, but I'm super excited that that is coming next week. And don't forget the little tail there. Now, a little note about this particular stamp image or stamp set and the tail. So this is Twinkle Little Star. Please make sure that that tail, because it's kind of a smaller piece that's coming off the mouse, doesn't get distorted, or when you die cut it, it's not going to die cut correctly. Ask me how I know. If you want to know how many times I colored that mouse, it's 3, and I got real mad after the second time. These cards took me, and I'm not even kidding you guys, because I had to set them aside because I got mad. It took me 4 days. And I know better than that, but I was trying to do it while I was sick, and I really think that that probably was part of it. So normally it doesn't take me that long. So don't quote me on that, because I definitely didn't work on them for 4 days. It did not take that long at all. I just had to set them aside because I had some frustration issues. These were started so long ago, and it just really took forever for me to finish them up. So definitely my best advice is to lay your die out on your paper, lay your stamp on top of it so it's lined up. In your MISTI, close your MISTI and pick it up so that the tail is in the correct position, and then remove your die, stamp and color as you will, and then die cut. Or you can always die cut it first and then stamp it if you wanted to. I would just recommend placing your die cut image back in the cardstock and placing it in your MISTI that way, so that it's a little bit easier to maneuver and stamp. So all of my mice are going to be colored the exact same way. This cute little guy I'm coloring right now is from A Star is Born. I mean, how cute are these names? So the stamp names, obviously Twinkle Little Star is the first one we used. A Star is Born is this guy, as well as the big star here. That's from A Star is Born 2, although you can get a big star from any of the big sets. Then Falling Star is the set with another mouse with its tail coming off, so I'm pretty sure you would need to do what I was talking about with that first one I did. Just be real careful with die cutting or stamping that the tail doesn't get skewed. I'm not using that stamp set, but I'm using both sentiments from that stamp set for my cards. So mix and match as you want. And then the small stamp, and that's Falling Star, pardon me. And then the small mini stamp set with the little mouse sitting on the star is Dream Big. So I just love the names. Another little tip for you, I'm thinking I did not color, I know I didn't. I didn't color in this mouse's tail until I die cut it, because I figured, since I used no line coloring ink, that if it didn't die cut correctly, I could just kind of maybe fudge it just a little bit and draw it in. But this one didn't have the same issue there, but I know for a fact that I didn't do that. So here's a good example of the feet. I already went over that left foot with beige and medium beige, and then this one I hadn't yet, and then I just kind of color it with pale pink first, and then I trace it with beige and kind of color over the whole thing with medium beige. Here's the star. I'm going to color with mustard. I like to trace it out. And then after I trace it with the darker color, just inside the line, I will kind of thicken that line, if you will, a little bit. So you'll see I'm just going to go around and thicken that up. That's going to give me a little bit more of the darker color to pull out with the lighter color. And now a little pale yellow. And we're just going to then color that and pull that out. I love this color combination. And this yellow star looks so pretty against the backgrounds we've created. So let's color in our final star. And again, this small image is from Dream Big. Now this one's going to work back really well to any other Anita Jeram images or stamp sets, pardon me, that you have with mice. So if you want to go kind of look and see what else you might have, or any Anita Jeram images, period, just because the size and scale of this guy is lots smaller than the others, you could really mix and match this in. I'm thinking the stamp set with the foxes kind of looking up at the moon, this would be cute too to put in the sky with that. So kind of play around with them. I know if you're like me and kind of the Anita Jeram collector, it would be super fun to use that. So then we're just going to color our little mouse, and I love that his tail is hanging down below the star. I just think that's so, so cute. And again, he's colored exactly like the others. I didn't use a ton of colors here today, but I didn't really need to. The most of the color for these cards is going to come from those backgrounds that we already created. Little pale pink for the foot and the inside of the ear, before we blend out everything with our medium beige marker. Cute, cute. And then don't forget to clean the tip of your lighter markers off. You can see I've kind of scribbled off on scrap parts of my background paper here. I did use Bristol Smooth cardstock. I do get that question quite a bit. When I'm coloring with zigs, I'm always using Bristol Smooth cardstock. Okay, here is my sweet, sweet little image. Oh my goodness. That was a labor of love getting this particular guy colored. The other ones went just fine. Maybe I should have started with those. Maybe I should have switched to those. But I guess I was bound and determined to get this one colored. But I'm glad I persevered because I love these stamps. Now I'm going to lay out my backgrounds. I'm going to figure out what sentiment I want to use with each background. And it kind of just depends on the image, how much extra room I have. I already know that we're going to have a little fun with vellum, and I want to make sure I leave room for my sentiment first. So sentiments are all going to be stamped and embossed first. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day is the sentiment for this one. Now, obviously I picked a big sentiment for the image that has the small mouse and star. I just had a lot more room here. It would fit probably with one of the bigger mice as well if you wanted to. I just kind of thought this worked really well with this particular image. So the sentiment, again, is from Falling Star. The image is from Dream Big. I'm going to stamp that on the background using clear embossing and watermark ink from Hero Arts. Sprinkle on our white embossing powder and then heat set. And this background or sentiment was placed along the bottom. The next two, or you can see I already stamped and embossed the first one. That one and the next one are both going to be up at the top. So for the one that you can see on the screen there, that image was from Twinkle Little Star, but the sentiment is from A Star is Born. And we used You Are the Brightest Star in My Sky, which I just love. And then the dark background, Reach for the Stars. So I kind of made my cards, instead of like baby themed cards, which I definitely don't think these have to be baby. I mean, some of these obviously have baby sentiments, but I made mine more of encouragement type of cards, or just, you know, the kind of card you send to someone just to say you think they're wonderful. These are all going to go to some of my Mail It Monday, which really needs to be sent out and updated soon. September was crazy, and so I didn't get any done. And I haven't done much better this month, but all of these cards are going to be sent out to Mail It Monday recipients. Now, I knew I wanted to take lots and lots of stars from across all of the stamp sets and stamp them on vellum, heat emboss with white embossing powder, and then adhere them to the background. Because you're stamping on vellum, you'll be able to see a little bit of the design from the background through the star, but I love the white outline. I like how it's just kind of a supporting cast on the card, but I didn't want to stamp and emboss the stars directly on the background. I wanted them to have a little more substance than just being clear. And so I did use vellum, but I didn't use just regular vellum. I used my favorite pearlescent vellum from Lawn Fawn. It has a little bit of a shimmer to it, and I thought it was perfect for these cards. We're going to run them through our Xyron sticker maker so that they have adhesive all over the back that will be hidden, that won't show through like a liquid adhesive might. I love my little Xyron sticker maker for vellum, and then we're simply going to attach our stars all over. And so I'm trying to figure out the best placement. I have not glued down my mouse yet because I thought I might want to put a star or two kind of peeking out from behind, almost like he's floating up in the clouds holding onto that star. And then we're just going to add several stars to each background and then finish with a scattering of embellishments. And you guys already know that hardly a card of mine goes by. There are a few that get by because I see you guys' comments that doesn't have a little heart of some sort. And we're going to be using the following embellishments, and they are all linked below. Lucy's Little Things droplets in lilac, and also in Pool. I want to make sure I get the names right. Lilac and Pool. So lilac is the color I'm using here. We're going to be using some iridescent star confetti and then like some little iridescent shooting stars as well. Definitely wanted to include some extra stars to kind of fill out the design, but I like these little heart accents as well. And then I'm just going to be adding these all over. I'm using a little liquid glue and an embellishment wand to pick them up and pop them in place. Let's just tap out a few of these on my work table and add them to my card. Now you'll notice that this slimline nested rectangle is slightly smaller than a slimline sized card base. My card bases are all from Simon Says Stamp, and slimline card bases measure 8.5 by 3.5 inches. So I would imagine this large rectangle is probably 8¼ by 3¼ so it's just about a tiny bit smaller, which means it leaves you with a nice white border, and I think the white border ties in nicely to the white around our die cut images, the white embossing, all of that good stuff, and I love how it just kind of frames up our little scene perfectly. And then I added tons of little embellishments to the background to really finish it off. So I just love the magical background. I love how we took a background that really I did not love. I'm just going to be honest. I have done this kind of technique before, so I knew it would be worthwhile. But I think just as is, adding the Distress Oxide inks the way I did, it's not that impressive. But then you add the white pigment ink over the top, you add some spritzing with some water, and it just ends up being beautiful. So let's go ahead and do our Reach for the Stars background. This is going to be our other large mouse image. I want him to be reaching towards another large yellow star. I really wanted there to be a yellow star on each of the cards to kind of be a more prominent focal point, and then the supporting stars are all going to be the embossed ones. And then I had forgot to draw in his eye and mouth and whiskers, so I went ahead and did that with my black pen. And then I want to make sure I position him just low enough so that the star, he's reaching towards it but not touching it, and I don't want it to overlap my sentiment. Now, how cute is the fact that the stars in the sentiment is kind of skewed? I really like that as well. I love Colorado Craft Company's fonts that they use for the Anita Jeram stamp sets because I think they're really unique and not like any other critter stamp sets out there. I really, really love that. Drew in the eye, mouth, and whiskers for my small image as well, and then we're just going to glue this in place using a little liquid glue. And I like how for this one with the much longer, larger sentiment, the small image balances it out perfectly. And then of course we're going to add some little stars to both of these. I did those kind of all at the same time. And you can use stars from any of the sets. Tweezers are helpful here. So there is adhesive on the back, and you'll notice I'm not pressing down very hard yet because I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to leave everything exactly where it is. Once I am happy with the placement of the stars, I will just kind of press them down in place. Then we're going to glue down our mouse and again finish with a scattering of hearts and confetti and all of that good stuff. So I didn't use any of the lilac hearts on this card. We're going to use the pool ones. And just get all of that put in place. I'm going to speed this up a little bit, but I did leave in a lot of the creation or design aspect of these backgrounds. I love creating multiple cards at a time. Even though each of these is its own card, they all have obviously similar elements with the slimline style. They all have mice and the clouds and all of that and the same kind of colors, but they all feature a little bit different. It's a great way to stretch your creativity, but still be able to get lots of cards done, maybe in one sitting, or, you know, one week you focus on a certain kind of card and you could put any kind of sentiment on these. Maybe you switch up the colors and you have some baby girl and baby boy cards already made and ready to go for when friends or family have a new child. I always like having those on hand, and I could definitely see doing some of those in the future. But it's just a great way to be able to have lots of new cards by creating many at one time. They definitely don't all have to be exactly the same. I know for me personally, I don't create a ton of the same kind of cards, but I love being able to create cards that maybe are all just a little similar. And there's a look at the finished card designs. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these Anita Jeram Slimline cards featuring cloudy skies created with Distress Oxide inks and white pigment ink. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. A huge thanks and shout out to my Patreon members, which you can see right here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we will catch you next time.